Hi everyone, myself Piali. Today we are going to discuss the second chapter from class 8, Land and Soil Resources, part 2. In this chapter we are going to discuss this topic, that conservation of land, how to conserve our land or how to prevent the land degradations, that are afforestation, planting of shelter belts, controlling soil erosion, checking on that overgrazing, etc. If we control these things, so we can protect our land from degradations. Okay. Next topic from this chapter is soil resources. How could we say that soil is a resources? Because this is that uppermost layer of that earth crust, and it is that mixture of fine powdered rocky materials and humus. Okay, so these parts help us to grow plants, and also help to make us settlement, etc. So obviously this is the most important part, and it is also known as the soil resources. Now we discuss about the soil profile. So what is the soil profile? Soil developed in horizontal layer, if we cut vertically down into the earth, it make a different layer become visible. Okay, these different layers are known as the soil profile. That soil profile, that there is layer are known as topsoil, subsoil and substratum soils. Okay, what is the topsoil? The very fine particles of the rock such as clay, silt, etc. that we can find out in that upper layer of that earth crust, that is known as the topsoils. Okay. Then subsoils, below the topsoils is the subsoils, rainwater collected in this layer. Okay. Next is substratums. This layer lies between the subsoils and that parent bedrock. Okay. After that bedrock, the last layer at the bottom of the soil profile, it is the parent bedrock. It is a solid layer of unweathered rock. Now we are going to discuss the soil formations, how that soil form. Okay, from that parent rock, we are going to discuss about that matter. So there is 6 major factors that determine the soil formations. First, nature of the parent rock. What do you mean by that? The original rock from which the soil is formed is called that parent rock. Okay. Second is that climate conditions. The climate conditions, particularly temperature and precipitations, affect the soil formations. Third is that topography. The topography or slope of the land in the particular regions is also important. On a steep slope, the weathered rocks particles cannot get deposit as they keep sliding down the slope under the force of gravity. Okay. Next factor is that humus. Humus, or the dead remain of the plants and animals, provides organic matter to the soil and adds to its fertility. And last but not the least, that is the time and agent of that erosions. Time is most important. Time is a very big factor in that formations of soil. It gives maturity to the soil. Okay. And last point is that agent of erosions. Based on this agents, it means that erosions agent that soils are made. So the various agent of erosion such as running water and wind also contribute in soil formations by depositing the materials carrying by them. Now we are going to discuss about the type of soils. That soils are classified according to color, texture, etc. On the basis of color, there are black, red, brown and grey soils. On the basis of textures, soils are sandy, clayey and loamy. Sandy soils contain more than 60% of sand, while clayey soils contain more than 60% of clay. Loamy soils has the balanced proportions of sandy and clay together with that humus. It is that best soils for the cultivations of crops. So based on color, that soils are many types. One is that black, red, brown, grey, etc. And based on the texture, that soils have 3 types. One is the sandy, clayey and loamy. In sandy, that sand percentage is 60. In clayey, that clay percentage is 60. And loamy is that balanced soil where that clay and sand is equal with that humus. Okay. Now we are going to discuss about the soil erosions. What do you mean by that? Soil erosions refer to that remove of that topsoils by running water and wind. It is known as the soil erosions. So there is two common most way. One is that sheet erosions and gully erosions. What do you mean by that sheet erosions? Sometimes during heavy rainfall, that volume of that run off is very high. If the topsoil is not that protected by the sufficient plants cover, it is washed away by the force of surface runoff. This is known as sheet erosions. And gully erosions, what do you mean by the gully erosions? When rain falls heavily over an uneven terrain, that runoff scoops out narrow and deep grooves. So this is known as the gully erosions. Okay, in this image you can see that types of soils, formations, characteristics, where we can find these types of soils and which types of crops are grown. It is most important. There is that alluvial soil, black soils, red soil, laterite, mountain soil, desert soil. That formations is written there, and that characteristics is written there. That regions we can find that alluvial soils in the north and plains regions, then regur or black soils we can find in the plateau regions, and then red soil we can find in the Kerala, Karnataka, etc. And laterite soil we can find in the eastern and western Ghats. Mountain soils we can find in the Himalayan regions, and the desert soils obviously we can find in the Rajasthan regions. Okay, that cross, that alluvial soils is suitable for that growing wheat, rice, etc. That black soils is suitable for that growing that cotton. Then that laterite soils is suitable for that pasture and shrubs, etc. Then red soils is help to grow that oilseeds and millets types of crops. Mountain soils is help to grow that fruits, tea, coffee, etc., spices, etc. And desert soils is help to grow that bajra and jowar. These types of crops are growing in these types of soils. Okay. Now we are going to discuss about the soils conservations, how to conserve our soils. That afforestation is that most important to conserve our soils. That overgrazing, if we control that overgrazing, we can control that soil erosion. Then terrace farming is very effective in that conserve that soils in that mountains regions. So if we are going to terrace farming, it is it is control that erosions of soils, from that erosions of the soils. Then counter farming, that strip cropping is that method of growing different crops in narrow strips, usually along that natural counter of that lands. Then is that crop rotations. It also helpful to that control that prevent that soil erosions. Then building that fields along that river reduce the soil erosions during that flood. Constructions of the dams, it also that control that soil erosions. Okay, so our discussion is over. Next day we are going to discuss about that exercise question of this chapter.